Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. I think I'm ready for fall. It's still very hot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's already September. This year's seems to be flying by. All right. So today we're going to deal with a couple things. We had a request by our venerable Marguerite to do a little bit on the focus function. So we'll talk about that today. We'll have some questions at the end of that for just general questions if anybody has some. I want to introduce our steering committee. Matt Canizio, David Day, Terry Maros, who is hopefully going to be with us again soon, Marguerite Peterson, Ed Sheeran, Jeanne Sparks. You there, Jeanne?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I am George Wagner, and Bob Wilkerson. Did I see Bob? Okay. So the steering committee's job is to basically guide our club to be what we want it to be. So if you have comments, complaints, requests, approach one of these people and let them know, because we can't do the things that you want us to do if we don't know about them. Hopefully we're giving you what you need, and if you have some ideas, please pass them along. If you'd like to do a presentation, that is great. If you don't necessarily want to do a presentation, but you want to see a presentation about something, that's fine too. One of the many people in the group will be able to do a presentation for you on any topic. So just send those topics our way so we can give you what you need. So today we're going to start with presentation on focus. Focus is an extension of the original do not disturb and sleep functions that Apple had built into their iOS devices and the Mac, where basically you could avoid getting interrupted with notifications and such in the middle of things that you were doing. Like if you were doing a presentation, you certainly didn't want all your text messages popping up on the screen. Well, that's projected on a large screen in a conference room. So it's like right now I have my do not disturb on my computer so that I don't get any of those messages coming in while I'm doing this presentation. So focus, they went a little further with it. They beefed up the sleep tools. The sleep and wake up times. Basically, they said what type of alerts are acceptable. You can basically say, okay, while I'm sleeping, I want notifications from family and certain friends, but all the other notifications, silence them. You'll still get the message. You'll still get the texts. The phone calls will still come in, but your phone won't ring or to disturb you. It'll just basically go right into your list of things that have come in. So you're not going to lose anything. You're just not going to be interrupted. Okay, and that's important because in the middle of the night, yeah, if your family calls, you need to know that. But if a telemarketer calls, you certainly don't want to be interrupted. Interrupt your sleep to talk to a telemarketer. Okay. So yeah, the focus they've taken the do not disturb and sleep functions and they've really added a lot of customization to it. Okay, you can basically say certain times of day, and basically say, okay, in the mornings these things are acceptable. In the afternoon, these things are acceptable. In the evening, these things are acceptable. So like during the day, work-related things are fine. In the evening, just my personal stuff. Work can wait till tomorrow. Okay. You also have activities, sleep, work, gym, dinner. For the phone, while you're driving, certain things can be allowed and certain things can be restricted. Okay. So what you do is you go into system preferences or system settings on the newer operating system. And then notifications and focus, you'll basically have all your options. And you can basically, in notifications, you can tell what you do and do not want for notifications in general. What focus lets you do is basically create a customized list of what apps are allowed to even do anything. Okay. So you click on the focus tab, and there's a plus and a minus at the bottom to delete existing focuses or add new focuses. Okay. In a second here, I think I want to change this a little bit. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I want to get this. Okay, so basically you can create a custom focus. It comes with some pre-made focus, one for sleep, one for work, one for personal, but you can also go in and create specific ones for what you what you want. So when you're out on a date night with your significant other, you can basically turn off all your normal text message alerts and just have only if your family members or certain people call or contact you, those will come through. Okay. So basically what you do is in each focus, once you've created one, you can see you've got the ability to add who is allowed, both apps and people. Okay. And what's nice is you can basically have only these apps are allowed, only these people are allowed to send notifications, or you can say everything can except these can't. So you have either the positive or the negative aspect. You say, okay, everything except for these are fine, or only these are fine. Okay. And so you can add people and you can add apps. And that basically lets you control specifically what information will be sent to you during those particular focus times. Okay. And this is what the on the iOS device on the phone, you'll see the focus, and that brings up here, and you can see you've got focuses. You also have this option here, share across devices. What's nice about that is that if you create a focus on one device, that focus will be available on all your devices. Focus status is if you are in a focus mode and somebody texts you, it will let them know that for example, your texts are being silenced right now. So that lets them know, okay, they're not going to see this right away. It may be a little while before they respond to you. So you can choose whether or not you want people to know that you're in those focus modes. The advantage of that is, of course, people won't get upset that you haven't responded because they understand that you may not have seen it yet. So here you can say allow from people, and you can choose which people you want to be in that allow list. You just add people and just keep adding the people into that list. Okay. Okay. You can allow calls from your from any particular group that you've created. Your favorites is the default group, but you can also create any group you've created in your contact list. What that means is no matter what settings you do, if these people call, it comes through. Okay. You can also choose to allow repeated calls. What that means, if somebody calls 2 times within 3 minutes, that second call will be allowed through. That generally is indicative of something that's important. An emergency, somebody got into an accident and they're trying to get in touch with you. If they call in rapid succession, that second call will be allowed through because it's assumed that it's important. And that's an option. If you don't want that, then that call will not come through. Okay. Okay, so here, this is the same idea that we saw with the people. We can choose applications, silence notifications from these. Now here, allow and silence. Silence means everything except for these are allowed. The allow sections is nothing except these are allowed. And same with the personal one, you had the same options. Okay. So what's nice about that is that you see I put all my social media on here. In this particular focus group, I basically don't want those things in that activity that I'm doing. Okay. Now here, it does have an exception. If there's something that is time sensitive, do you want that to bypass this setting. And if you have that turned on, it will. Okay. You can also add a schedule. You can have certain focus things that turn on automatically at a certain time of day. Or you can put focus filters on. What that does, it lets you change your screen, which screens are visible. So you may have, when one focuses on, you may just have one of your screens available, whereas normally you've got 4 screens. Okay. So here, for example, once you've created a focus group, if you go into Control Center, you'll see that there's a section on the top right where you can choose what setting you have. Okay. So you choose your focus group, and then if basically you'll see the word focus there if there's nothing selected, but if you have one selected, the one that is selected will be shown there. Okay. And then you can see you can turn on a focus group for a particular time period. So like right now, if we're doing something like this, you can say, okay, turn it on for an hour. That way you don't have to remember to turn it off later. As when Do Not Disturb first came out, there were a lot of times where people were having trouble because the phone wasn't ringing. And the reason was they'd accidentally turned on the Do Not Disturb, and it was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, but they didn't realize. So all of these have the ability to turn them on and off for a particular time. On the phones, you'll also have the ability to turn them on until I leave this location. So that's real handy if you're not sure how long you're going to be. As soon as the GPS indicates that you've left that location, it turns it off. Okay. And this is what you'll see on the iOS devices. Okay. And the little dots, the 3 dots are basically where you'll choose the duration and options for that particular focus. Now on the iPhone and iPad, you also have the ability to control the screen lock image. So you can basically have these, when you're in a particular focus group, it changes your background and screen lock image. I find that very useful because then you have a very visual indication that a mode is on. Like the Do Not Disturb, I have changed my background to a very bright orange background, and that makes it very obvious that the Do Not Disturb is on. I don't have to remember, oh, did I turn that off? It's obvious that I haven't. All right. Any questions about the focus mode? I mean, I didn't go into I didn't want to go into too much of the minutia, but there's a lot of flexibility in there. There's a lot of customization. For those people who get into shortcuts, you can actually use shortcuts to trigger focuses when particular things happen. That gets a little deep, so I didn't want to go too far into that. But do we have any questions first on focus?
Thank you, George, but I'm convinced I will turn it off.
You can use, keep in mind,
go wrong
keep in mind, the Do Not Disturb and the sleep, those are preset. Those I would recommend you use. As you start understanding better, what the benefits of that, you might say, hey, I could also see when I'm doing this, I might want it. Now, keep in mind, you don't have a job where you're doing presentations or meetings and conferences, so it's not as big of a deal for you. But what is a big deal for you is when you're sleeping. You don't want your phone and your iPad, ding a ding a ding a ding a ding all during the night. So that's where the Do Not Disturb and the sleep modes are very nice. If you're going into the movies, you don't want to have that bothering you there as well. And if you keep the group, your favorites coming through, and you keep the if they call twice, repeated calls on, you really cover your bases. Because if it's an emergency, they'll call twice and that'll come through, or they're coming from friends and family that are on your go-to list. Okay, those people will always come through. So having those two, just the sleep and the Do Not Disturb, in and of itself is really useful. As you, like I said, as you start doing things that, boy, I wish this would stop bothering me when I'm watching a movie or this, you can then say, oh, hey, wait a minute, I could basically make one to do that. And again, you can manually turn it on, but you could also have, have these set up to when you do certain activity. If you go to the gym every day at a particular time, you say, okay, every day from 9 to 10, turn it off. Every day from 5 to 11 at night, do this one. So, but like I said, the basic do not disturb and sleep, play with those. I think you'll find those very useful. Whether you go any deeper than that, that doesn't matter, as long as you get some use out of it.
George, I use the do not disturb a lot for sleeping. And I notice that when I get in my car, if I have my phone with me, it automatically goes into focus, says it's automatically set that it sends a message to people that he's driving and that he'll get when he's parked.
Yeah. And if for some reason you don't want that, you can turn that off, but that is the default setting that,
I find that very useful. I want to thank you about the background colors, because I keep forgetting that I've said do not disturb. People that call me, they're sort of used to it. I say, oh, gee, I turned on do not disturb an hour ago. I completely forgot about it. So I'm going to definitely put that on so it changes the color of the screen.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's a stark, it's like, oh yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
Can that be set so that it will turn off functions of the phone like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi at certain times of the day?
No, that's the focus won't have that ability, but that is something that a shortcut could do.
Okay.
That's a little deeper than what we're talking about here, but yeah, that's something that you'd have to use a shortcut to do. And shortcuts can be triggered by setting your focus. So in essence, it could be made to, where you basically turn on this focus, which also triggers the shortcut, which does those things.
Okay.
But we're getting real deep in the weeds for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for those people who are interested, the shortcuts are a very powerful tool. If you like playing with that kind of stuff, have fun. You can go to several websites, download some pre-made shortcuts, see how they work, tweak them a little bit, and use theirs, and then you'll learn how to customize your own and make some. I'm just scratching the surface on that myself, and I used to do a lot of Apple scripting and database scripting, so I understand the concepts. It's just learning how it does it and putting them together. But it's some fun. I've got a couple. I do one that pulls up a animation of a lighter. So when I do karaoke and people always take used to take lighters, now they take the phone. Well, my phone has a lighter on it.
Yeah. Cute.
Yeah, so I just run the script that goes to the web page that has that animated image going. If you
George,
send, I'm sorry. Real quick, if you do send like bulk texts or then it's a bulk text, but if you send the same text and you want to send it to like different people, but you don't want it to come in as a group text, you can set up a shortcut that sends that same text to multiple people. So if that's something you do regularly, having a shortcut to do that can save you some time. I'm sorry, Kevin, you were saying?
I was just going to say, I had somebody recently who had as you said, the focus status is on by default, so that if you have a focus enabled, like do not disturb or sleep, then somebody texting you or calling will get a notification that you've got a focus enabled and that they're not going to get the notification right away. So I had somebody who had that by default was on, and somebody else texting got the notification that notifications was disabled, and that person texting got confused and thought that there was something wrong with the person who had the focus on. So it was actually confusing for the person texting rather than the person who had it enabled. So just to be aware, if somebody texts you and say, hey, your notifications are turned off, yeah, if you've got your focus mode on, they're going to be turned off. But I think that, again, that was confusing to the person texting, thinking something's wrong with their phone because their notifications is off. So
just for my own edification, all these times that I forget to shut off Do Not Disturb and people call, they're being notified that focus is on or Do Not Disturb is on.
Well, for calls, it'll just go right to voicemail. But if they text you, unless you've turned off that feature.
I was wondering because no one's ever said to me, "Oh, we saw that you were Do Not Disturb." No one's ever said it.
Well, see, even if they don't get a message, the text goes through. They don't know you haven't seen it because unless they get that notification. Yeah. Now, for people who are dealing with a lot of others who are using Apple products, if you turn your red notification on, it will basically let the person know when it's been read. They'll get there's three messages. When you send a text, you'll see sent, which means it left you, delivered, which means it arrived on one of the other person's devices, but they haven't read it yet, and then read. But that will only happen if you have that read notification turned on, because otherwise it'll just say delivered, and you'll never know when they've read it until they respond to you.
No, I've got those enabled. I use them
and what you have is you have the default setting, which is either on or off. And then on each conversation, you can click on the person, their name at the top, and you can hide alerts or add or show alerts for that conversation, that person. So that's a nice feature too. If you want most, in general, want people to know, but maybe this one person is the type of person that if you read it and you don't answer right away, they kind of get pissy with you. You can turn it off, and then they'll never know you read it until you answer. I've got one of those. That's why I say that.
I've got one too. We all do.
Yeah.
George, that feature you're talking about, turning that it's been read, is that under read receipt?
Yes.
Turn on read receipt?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if
I
that's
want to know that somebody's read my message.
Right.
I have some people in my text group that don't have that turned on, and I have no way of knowing whether or not they read the message.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And if they are someone who doesn't like that, for some reason doesn't want that on, you can request that they turn on just for you in the conversation. And if they click on your name, they can turn on that feature for you and not necessarily for everybody.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Cool. But yeah, I do have somebody that if I'm busy, I'll read the message. I won't have time to respond right away, and I'll respond hours later. Then, well, what took you so long? So it's like, okay, off. Right. So any general questions?
I have a couple things I'd like to bring up. It's really not a question. One, of course, is that we're having an Apple event. Most people probably know that. It's going to be centered about, the iPhones and maybe a couple other little things. But something else for people that own Apple stock. If you do, you may have noticed that the last couple of days it's been tanking rather badly.
I know.
And there's two reasons for that, in case you're wondering. Number one is that China, the government of China has mandated that any employee of the Chinese state, I guess, cannot use an iPhone. This is in retaliation for the high-use phones. I don't think I'm not. The phones that we were banning.
Huawei.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. And the second one is the technical terms get a little cuckoo, but we all know how the Apple Store works and how they get a commission. And we know that there's been a big brouhaha that Apple should open it up so that the people that have sold you the app can bill you directly or whatever it is without going through Apple. And I don't know if that case is still pending or whatever it is. But in Europe, they basically told Apple that, no, you're going to have to open it up, period. We consider you to be a gatekeeper or something. And so that's going to cut into their revenue. So those two things have caused a pretty precipitous stock drop over the last couple of days.
Now, on that second one, there's two aspects of this that are involved, but only one that gets talked about a lot. And that the first is, the whole monetary and control issue. But the second is, if it's just billing for subscription, I have no problem with that. But if it's add-on purchases, if it's not going through the App Store, then we have no way to know if that company is doing anything nefarious. Because if they sell you an add-on, that add-on hasn't been vetted by Apple, we don't know what it's doing. And that's the whole purpose of the store, was originally to keep the nefarious websites from saying, hey, download our app that does all this neat stuff, and then it's basically data mining you or stealing information, efficient, whatever. And that's one of the safeguards that Apple puts in place. So it's a balance. Yeah, I'm sure that Apple's also, milking as much money out of it as they can. I mean, they're a business to make money. That's how it works. But implementation of what this is asking is more than just a monetary thing. And the problem is a lot of the news media and legal side don't necessarily understand the technical aspects to it. So in my head, there's a big issue of our privacy and security in addition to the monetary question. And as somebody who's been in this business since the late 70s, I remember when, if you were a programmer and you programmed a program that was really cool, you had to find a publisher to publish it, and they got 99% of the profits from that. When Apple did the App Store, they basically said, hey, you're going to get 70% of the profits. We're just going to take 30%, but we take care of distribution, we take care of marketing, we take, the support comes through you, all this infrastructure. You are now on a shelf next to Adobe and Electronic Arts, all these big name companies at an equal setting. So it lets some kid in a garage spend $100 on the programming kit, put in some time to learn it, and put out a program that he could then sell side by side with a big name company and make some decent money on it. I mean, there's people making six-figure incomes from one app that they made. So it opened up the floodgates for a lot of development. The implementation of what they're asking hopefully will not deter that. And a lot of the push on this is coming from the big publishing houses, because they lost a lot of clout and a lot of control when Apple did this, and they won it back. And so I'm on Apple's side for the most part. Yeah, I'm sure there's some pricing things that they could deal with, and some subscription billing. I have no problem with that aspect of it, but I think that they're missing the point. 30% for what Apple provides is not a lot.
And I think they modified that. It's even less for the smaller people.
Yeah.
I don't think 30.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Apple, it started with the music. I mean, 99-cent, songs were phenomenal because the artists were getting most of that money. And that's the big thing, is both of these things give the person who did most of the work most of the benefit. So I think that it's a short-sighted thing, because it doesn't look at the whole picture. And so I'm hoping that Apple will be able to find some compromise that's going to work for everybody and keep that security and privacy, because that is the biggest thing in my head, because Apple's always been the most secure platform, and has also been the one that is most concerned with our privacy. So I want that to continue.
Yes, Apple might try to put some public information out there. If it weren't for TMUG, I wouldn't know that the apps coming down from the App Store are safe. And I have never downloaded anything from anybody but the App Store for that reason. But I'm not sure the general public has any idea of what you're talking about, which I think is a major safety net for those of us. Everything else is going wrong with technology these days, and hacking, and heaven knows what else. So to have a safe source, I think Apple needs to get some PR stuff out there. That's
actually been Apple's Achilles heel forever. I mean, for the longest time, they were offering phenomenal support at no cost for decades. And they never marketed that information out. And all these other companies, were offering minimal free support, and then everything was nickel and dime you to death. And so eventually Apple stopped doing that, because they didn't really market the heck out of that. and use that as a selling point for their equipment. But one of the things that they did with the Mac is they added the App Store for the Mac. They could not do what they did with the iOS devices, which is said, okay, from day one, everything has to go through the App Store. With the Mac, you already have people used to be able to go to this website or that website and download stuff, so they couldn't say you can't do that anymore. But they did kind of push in the direction. They have three options. You download from anywhere. You download from any developer who is on the approved certified list. They've been certified, or you can download just from the App Store. I tell people, if you're setting up a computer for grandma, set it to only allow from the App Store. If she needs something else, deal with it when it comes. You can temporarily turn that off and download from anywhere. But it means you have to take a look at what you're downloading and make a decision to do that, as opposed to just willy-nilly, oh, I'm just download this, it looks cool. Because that's where you get malware and phishing and all those scams. Anything in the Mac App Store, again, has been vetted. Anything in the approved, the certified list, are all developers at Apple that have applied to and received certification from Apple, so you can trust those companies are going to be okay. And then the option to download from anywhere is because that's what we're used to doing, and they couldn't. It's like spilled milk, can't put it back in. They couldn't undo that and say, no, you can't do that anymore. But they can nudge you to not do that. And that's what these three options have done. It's really nudging you to push it towards going through the App Store. And they're pushing developers to that as well. Some of the bigger companies don't feel the need to, but they're on the approved, certified developer list.
I've got a question for Ken. You mentioned something during our last session that we have dirty power, and that's why you have a UPS or whatever you're using. Could you clarify that? Because I'm having a couple funny things happen at my house.
Yeah, I'm used to dirty power because I've always lived in rural areas. So what I did here was I went up to Office Depot and bought this little battery unit that's probably this long, this tall, and so thick. It's $75, $80, something like that. And that basically cleans up the power. And the way mine works is the mains feeds into it, but the computer, and this is not a laptop, this is like a Mac Mini or something like that. And it's running off, the way I understand it, is it's running off battery all the time. And the battery, of course, is feeding clean power to it. But the power coming into it may be up and down and up and down. And that somehow or another, it cleans that up, feeds it into the battery, and you get nice clean power.
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
I had one of those, but the battery has a finite life, and then
Correct.
they die.
Yeah, about 5 years, something like that.
I have to replace it. But what do you mean by dirty? You mean mine?
Oh, okay. Well, they actually, when I lived up in Virginia, I got so upset about it that Vepco finally brought a meter out, put it on my line, and they said, oh my gosh, you've got spikes up to 140 volts down to 97 volts. They said, man, this is all over the place. You've got dirty power.
Okay.
What you want to look for is power conditioning.
Okay.
It's the term that they'll use. Have you ever noticed you have a lamp, and sometimes the light just kind of varies a little bit in intensity, or if you turn the vacuum on, you see it dim. That's what dirty power is.
Yeah, what's happening is my motion sensitive night lights randomly are going on and off. At first I thought it was mice in the house, which I had one or two, I captured them. But every day, those motion things like have a mind of their own and start going on and off with me sitting in a chair. It has nothing to do with any motion whatsoever. But that's what it is then. We're having these fluctuations.
Yeah.
Matt, basically it's the fact that you've got a whole lot of customers in the system, and they turn appliances on and off, particularly heavy using appliances like air conditioners and electric stoves and washing machines and so on. And it depends upon how much you're out in the country.
Yeah.
But I used to monitor the power at the college where I taught. And I was monitored the voltage. And in particular, I could tell every time they turned down the electric motors for the ski lift. And they were 3 or 4 miles away. And my power would drop from 120 down to about 98 volts because they were drawing all this power out to run the ski tow. And anyway, that's a common phenomenon in with comparatively a weak system where there's an enormous load on it. And I suggest big motors, big inductive motors are a fine example of it.
Yeah, your HVAC system is what dims the lights in our particular house, even though it's got a condenser that kicks power through when it comes on, it still, the lights dim, and that's life. So
Yeah,
That's right.
the only
That's
thing
right.
that causes, I don't have those problems. I mean, it's, I do notice it seems that if I'm using my induction cooktop, sometimes it takes longer to cook. And I'm just saying that the current's low. The other thing is, if anyone here has a laser jet printer, when my laser jet, it's a brother, kicks in, boy, you know about it.
Yeah, the lights dim when my laser printer kicks
Yeah,
on.
the light dims. It's it's plugged in here to the computer, of course. The computer keeps going, thank God, but you know that it just came on, so I'm used to that.
You want a cheap way to monitor that? At least in my house, I have a couple of lights on rheostats that otherwise called dimmers.
Yeah.
Turn it down to where it's right on the edge of turning off, and then you'll discover that when your air conditioner kicks on, your lights flicker, or when you turn your electric dryer on.
Yeah.
And that's simply an indication of variations in the voltage. I would suspect, well, other kinds of wigglies in it if you had an oscilloscope, but your own dimmer switch is your best and cheapest way of checking the variations in your power.
Thank you.
And keep in mind that over time will put wear and tear on electronic devices. So having power conditioning on your devices is definitely worth having, because it can increase the lifespan of those devices.
George, with a laptop that's running off of a battery, even if you've got it plugged in, the only thing you really need to worry about then is a surge, less of the dirty power up and down fluctuations. Is that correct?
I'm not an expert on that, but that would be my guess on that as well. Yes.
So, but a standard surge protector like you use when you have several devices to plug in, that's not going to have any effect on it.
On the power, no, not on power, but what he's saying,
fluctuation.
Right, but what he's saying is, since it's pulling from the battery, it shouldn't affect the operation of the laptop, but the power coming into the battery would have that.
Right.
I have equipment plugged into some surge protectors everywhere, and I'm running a Brother laser and a Samsung laser at the same time, and there is no power surge. There is no sign of flickering. There's of a variation of power. So I'm wondering if my rather expensive power surge or surge protector that I have is causing the power to stabilize.
It may have power. It may have power conditioning.
Power conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, also keep in mind, a lot of people don't realize this. Within a strip, some strips have insulation from each of the plugs in there, and some don't. If they don't, the cheaper ones, they'll protect you from outside surges. But if one of the devices on the strip, like your laser printer, makes a surge, those other devices plugged in that strip may not be protected from that surge. So what you want is we want one where the plugs are isolated, and so they're protected from each other. It sounds like the one that you have, Marguerite, has that as well, because otherwise you would have noticed.
You would notice a flickering, yeah.
I've got 4 pretty powerful surge protectors in this house. And
And
it's a small house.
yeah, and just to give you an idea of how important search suppressors are, I had a client once that the computer was just doing weird things. You turned it on, it came up, but it was just not acting normally. And just on a fluke, I unplugged it from the surge strip and plugged it into the wall, and it worked fine. The surge strip had taken the hit, but not enough that it died completely, but it was damaged and was not providing good power to the computer anymore. But once I unplugged it, plugged it into the wall, it worked fine. I realized it was the surge strip. So sometimes it's not obvious that the surge strip has taken the hit. If you have an old surge strip, if you're a couple years old, you might want to think about replacing it. If your surge strip light is flickering or off, it is no longer providing surge protection. It is just a multiple outlet strip at that point. Okay. So just be aware of. I have a lot of old ones that flicker. I just use those when I need more plugs. That I'm not using it for protection.
Hey, I got a question. I'm a little late to the party, but I'm actually thinking about getting an Apple Watch. And the only reason I'm getting it, frankly, is to answer my phone, my iPhone. But what I want to know is how far from the iPhone will my watch operate? And I got to make sure that my watch is the same phone number as my iPhone. Talk to me about that.
Well, if you get the cellular one, you have the option to have it be a different number, but you can still have the calls forwarded to each other. If you're getting just the non-cellular ones, it's basically only answering the iPhone. If you have the cellular one, there's no distance necessary because it has its own connection to the internet and to the cell service. If you go with the non-cellular option, I believe you're looking at about 300 feet. I think 30 yards.
I think it's 30 feet, Joel.
30 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
30 I think it's 30 yards.
Just
So
like
30 feet. Yeah, exactly. It's Bluetooth. So basically, it's
When I had
short
my-
range, but low distance.
Ken,
So
when
was
I
that?
previous watch, I had Verizon, and you had no choice but to get a number for the watch, but you never noticed it. You never saw that happening. I've switched over to Consumer Cellular, and they are now supporting the Apple Watch. But what I'm finding is I'm not able to, and it's not a new number. It's on the same number as the iPhone now with the Consumer Cellular. I'm finding that I'm not able to speak on the telephone the way I used to when it had its own number. Now, I don't know whether Consumer Cellular is having growing pains or whether the fact that it doesn't have its own number makes a difference. I can see the call come in. I know who it is, but I need to find my phone to do the speaking. And that's with the Consumer Cellular with no new number for the watch. And that's been my experience.
And see, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I can't find my phone half the time. The other half the time it's in my pocket. And I'm sitting here right
the
now.
watch has a wonderful feature on it. And it's very easy to find. You click it and it says, "Where's my phone?" Your phone rings. You'll find your phone.
Yeah, but I don't want to get up from this chair.
Can admit that you're not wearing any clothes from your waist down.
and you where's the fridge and the stove?
Ken, I have the watch, and I'm on Verizon, and it's great. I can walk my dog all over Brevard and answer my telephone. It just looks kind of funny when you're out, when you're holding your wrist up and talking into it. Other than that, it works really well.
Okay, so how far away are you from your iPhone, or is it a cellular?
I never carry my iPhone when I am out
good.
walking the dog, and I still can answer the phone no matter where I go.
Wow.
That's a cellular one, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
she's got
cellular,
the
yes.
cellular. Yeah.
How much extra is that a month?
$10.
Okay.
Now, who are you with? What carrier?
Verizon.
Okay, yeah. They used to
Now
charge like 17, yeah.
I have the Apple Watch that's non-cellular, Ken. And if I have my phone on the table and I go to, which is sort of central in the house, I can go to the basement or to the other parts of the house and still answer the calls on my watch if I need to. If I go outside the house and too far away, my watch will usually say, "Hey, you're too far away from your phone. You know, you've left your phone." You know, and so that's sort of my reminder. But I can't go out in the yard too far away with and still answer a phone call on my watch. So it does have to be around. But like you said, if it's in my pocket or in the house someplace, I don't have an issue, and I can just answer the call on my on my watch if I need
That's
to.
a
Does it
non-cellular.
vibrate when
That's
you're too far away?
I get a little notification. I can't remember if it's a vibrate or just a beep or something, and then there's an icon. There's an icon on the where the notification dot is on the watch. There's an icon up there that indicates that it's disconnected from the phone. So it shows like a little image of the phone with a line through it. So I know that I'm no longer connected to my phone.
Ken,
Sue,
I swim, but I've never gotten a call while I was swimming, so I don't know if it works when it's underwater.
Can you
Um,
talk underwater?
Well, I'm not underwater. I'm doing water aerobics. I don't know, Marguerite, you'll have to call me sometime and see if my phone works.
Sue,
this is-
you can use your AirPods when you're walking, so you don't look so. And you know, you don't have to hold the watch up to talk.
This is
I
just,
never thought about doing that. I don't like to wear them when I'm out. They bother me, you know. But I mean, I've been out walking the dog for a long time like this, you know, and after a while I have to hold my arm up. I get so tired.
Have you seen those ones that go around your neck?
What, the iPods?
Yeah, they're basically it's a system. It's like a Bluetooth thing. You just wear it around your neck and you can talk and hear.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're waterproof. I don't need to talk anyway. I'd rather not.
Okay, well, this
Do
is
not
you
disturb.
brought up an interesting question, because actually when I talk on my iPhone, it's actually through my hearing aids, though I have to have my iPhone in my hands to answer it and all that stuff. Can my iPhone forward calls to my Apple Watch, which forwards calls to my hearing aids? I guess I push a button on the watch or something like that. Help me out.
Now,
You
Ken,
should be
that's
able to.
something you're gonna have to talk to your audiologist and to the manufacturer of your hearing aids, because mine will do some things that other people's hearing aids won't do, and converse, mine will and they won't. So it's up to the manufacturer and how it pairs with the iPhone and the watch. By the way, the Verizon cost for the extra number on the watch is $6 a month, and on consumer cellular, I'm paying $5 a month to have the watch covered, but it is not as satisfactory as it was with Verizon.
It's also, if you're ever going overseas, the consumer cellular does not cover your Verizon. You can get a plan with Verizon that's very inexpensive, and it will cover you when you're overseas. When you talk, it costs $5 for that or $10 for that day. You can make as many calls as you want. If you're not using it, it does not cost you anything.
If you're going to be out of the country for significant time, week or so, you can actually go to a local cellular store in that country and get a SIM card, and basically your number will be different, but you can sell your Apple ID and everything will still connect you to all your people through your texting and such. But those are going to be much cheaper. The rates in those countries are phenomenally lower than ours, and generally cover. I mean, if you're in Europe, you can get a card anywhere in Europe, and it's going to cover pretty much all of Europe. So if you're going to be there for a little bit of time, stop and get it, and don't pay the U.S. rates because they're much higher.
Yeah.
So but that won't work with the newer phones that don't have SIM slots anymore,
Well,
correct?
There should be. You should be able to get eSIMs from those places.
Okay.
So what I've done is just buy a local phone. Their local phones over there, $30, and now they're not iPhones, but they're cheap phones, come with a SIM card, come with a local number. So if you got to call your hotel or something like that, you can do it. And George is right. The mobile phone service in Europe is dirt cheap.
Very, very important though. If you do that, you're not getting the data on your phone. Okay. If you don't have the data on your phone, turn off cellular data. Because if you don't, every time that mail checks to see if there's a mail message, you're going to get dinged with that. I had somebody that he'd never used his phone, but he didn't turn that off. He got a $230 bill when he got home. Okay. And all it was doing was checking for email, just check to see if it got email. That's all it was doing. And it was just that half a second tick is a full whatever they designate a connection to be. And so he got like $230 and it was only there for like a week. So make sure if you don't get a SIM, eSIM or physical SIM for your phone for the international, turn off cellular data. Only do it when you're on Wi-Fi. So any other questions?
I was just say, is anybody going to upgrade their phone to the 15 variant?
Oh, to the 15?
My phone battery has been so pitiful for the last 6 months to a year.
People are complaining about that.
Yeah.
Well, mine 14 Pros.
Mine's an 11.
Yeah, but the 14 Pros the battery seems to be dying.
I also realized that my phone has a little PTSD from my accident last year, because it was in the car and got thrown back and was actually frozen at first, and touchscreen wasn't responding. And basically for about 2 weeks, my cellular signal, it just stopped. It would not talk to the cellular network. I was on support, went through 4 eSIMs and tried different physical SIMs, and it wouldn't work. And then just a couple days ago, all of a sudden it started working. I think my phone is just going through PTSD. I was gonna be really upset if I had to replace that phone now when I'm waiting for the 15 to come out.
Well, one I just want to mention, probably most people know about, but Apple gives you will purchase your phone for you. I'm thinking about upgrading to 15. I got 11 Pro Plus, and I went and looked at it, and it says that Apple was giving me $300 for it, which really surprised me, because the phone is 4 years old, four generations old, and so I thought that was a good price on it. But you just go to the Apple site and put in your phone, and they tell you how much it's worth. It's really neat.
Apple's program is really good. If before you do that though, I would check Gazelle.com just to see what they're offering.
Yeah, I did, and the SIM is 300, 350, 325. They all vary around $300.
I went to Apple yesterday and checked just exactly that. Now the 15 isn't out, so it was the trade-in on a 14, and the one I have is an 11 Pro, the large phone Pro, and they did offer me $300.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a mundane question. Somebody hacked one of my, or let's put this one of my email addresses is on the black web, and I'm getting wonderful offers for steamers and vacuum cleaners and free iPhones and whatever. I recognize that these spammers create emails each time they send out a blast of this type, but I still feel better when I hit block. Does Apple limit how many emails you can block? And if they do, I'm starting to reach the max, I think. If I delete the oldest ones who haven't gotten through to me in, let's say, a year, would that be an option if there is a limit to how many I can block?
I'm not aware of any limit, but then again, I've never really looked into that. It may be more of a mathematical limit that they didn't put in a physical limit, but things are oftentimes in relationship to the number 8, 8, 16, all the way up to like 256, 512, 1024. So there may be a limit based on the mathematics of computers, but as far as I know, I wouldn't think there'd be a limit to that. But yeah, if you deleted the oldest ones, there's a good chance that those are not going to be sending you stuff anymore.
Hmm.
I wasn't aware that you could even block email addresses. I knew you could block phone numbers.
If you right click the address on the email, when you look at the email and you right click it, I'm on a Mac doing this. One of the options on that menu that drops down is block sender. And it'll put a little bit circle onto the email with a line through it, but it doesn't take it out of your inbox. So you still have to delete it and then get it out of your trash, which is what I usually do. But
Well,
if you click the email, the sender's email, one of your options will be blocked.
Marguerite, I would still mark it as junk.
Hmm.
Don't delete it. Mark it as junk.
Rather than just block it?
No, you can block it if you want, but don't delete it. Mark it as junk. If you delete it, you're not adding to the spam filter.
But when the message comes in, I block it.
But that's blocking the address. That's not going to affect it if they send it from a different address. But if you mark it as junk, it looks at that email and it creates a template based on when you mark several as junk that it sees a pattern to. It can then say, oh, well, this one coming in matches that pattern. It's from a different email address, but it matches that pattern. So if you want to block it, that's fine, but also mark it as junk. Because if you delete it, it doesn't learn anything.
Okay, good.
Okay, George, is junk the same as spam?
Yes, they're interchangeable.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that message will be in your junk mail folder. If you want to go in and empty that out periodically, you can. You can also set it to automatically empty the junk mail folder every so often. I wouldn't have it empty the junk mail folder too soon, because sometimes it may catch something that you want. So you want to have a window where you can go into the junk mail and check, oh, this message shouldn't be marked as junk. When that happens, select move to inbox or mark as not junk, depending on what device you're on. Those are the options. But that tells it, oh, this is not junk. So remove it from that algorithm and put it in the inbox.
Okay, so George, when you're talking about marking it as junk, are you just saying putting it into the junk mailbox?
No, there's an option that says mark as junk.
Well, I'm looking at it right now and I see if I right click on the address that the mail came from, it has a copy address, add to VIPs, block contact, new email, add contacts, add to contacts, or search.
Okay.
But I don't see any.
If you're looking at the email itself, at the top of you have on the top of the window, you should have some buttons. Like the new message button. There's one that, depending on what version of the program you're using, it'll either be like a down arrow, or it'll be like it looks like a crate, a box crate. If you put the cursor on it, it should say mark as junk.
Well, also, I see one that says move selected messages to junk.
That's it. And you can also, from the message menu, there's a mark option, and one of the options is mark as junk mail.
Right. Marguerite, do you have any theory why you've gotten so many of these things? I hardly get any spam at all. And
email addresses, and only one of them is being used on that, and it happens to be the one that I use most often. It happened a few years ago, but in recent times, I am getting at least 3 or 4 per day now on that particular email address.
A couple of things that can be very helpful. Apple's new hide my mail function is really nice, because what it does is it basically creates a alternate email that is linked to yours. And if you start getting spam on it, you can basically break that link and stop getting the spam. And the second thing is the thing that I've been doing for years is oftentimes you do something and it requires you put an email address in. You don't really necessarily want to give them your email, but you can't go on if you don't. I have a Yahoo account, and I basically put that email in there, and then I'll immediately go to my Yahoo and forward that one email to my real email address. And at any given day, I have hundreds of spam on that Yahoo.
Right. I have a Gmail address for that purpose.
Yeah.
I periodically go out and just clean it out, and almost nothing in there is something that I would want.
Yeah.
That's not even on my list of accounts. I have 6 active accounts, and only one of them is being abused.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, what happened is that that email address made its way into one of the dark web lists and is now very important. Do not ever unsubscribe to something unless you physically know you subscribe to it,
Oh,
or
right.
if you
Come
know
on.
it's coming.
Yeah.
If you know it's coming from a brick and mortar place, like if you're getting something from Target and you know it's coming from Target, you check the domain on the email, or Kohl's, whatever. Those you can unsubscribe to. But if you get a message that has unsubscribe and you don't know why you're getting it, don't unsubscribe. So what that does is it tells whoever sent it that the email address is a valid email address and will actually increase your spam. Does everybody know how to verify where an email is coming from? If
Well-
you look on an email, and here, let me share my screen real quick here. Okay, so you can see this says it's from Dropbox, but is it? You go up here to the address, see the little arrow? Click on that, you'll see the actual address. That where it says Dropbox is a label. I could type in apple.com as my label, apple@apple.com, and you look at it, oh, that's coming from Apple. Not necessarily. It's a label. It can say anything that I choose it to say. So you look here and you look for the domain. The domain is whatever's right before the com or the edu or the gov or the biz, whatever the extension is. What's immediately to the left of that is the domain. This is coming from Dropbox. So I know, yes, this is from Dropbox. If this said dropbox.e.com, the domain would be e, not Dropbox. And they'll do that sometimes. They'll put what they, they're trying to make it feel from, they'll put something else in between that and the com. The domain is the thing immediately to the left. Okay. Now, anything before, like for a website, anything before the domain is fine. Anything after the domain with slash is fine. But find the com, edu, biz, whatever the extension is, and look for whatever's right before it. That is where it's coming from. So if you're expecting it from Apple, it's going to say apple.com. If you're expecting it from Microsoft, it's going to say microsoft.com. Bank of America, it's going to say bankofamerica.com. Okay. If it doesn't, it's not coming from them. Okay.
A word of caution on that. If you notice what George just put up, the address is in gray. It's a little hard to read it. Many times I get them where the let's say Wells Fargo. It'll say wellsfargo.com, but there's a slight misspelling in Wells Fargo. And on quick look, you think it's Wells Fargo, and it's not. If any part of that message is misspelled, it's not your company. Get rid of it, and you go to the main website of whatever you're dealing with directly. The minor misspelling is enough to tell you that this is a spam.
Yeah. Well, also check this out. See that A? See how that A is?
Yeah.
That's the normal A. There is a Russian character that looks like a lowercase a, like a circle with a line, not the one that has like the little hat to it. What they'll do is they will put that little character in there where the A is supposed to be, and it looks pretty much normal because it's just that different A than that A. And you'll see that a lot. And it's basically, it'll say the exact same thing, but instead of the A with the little hat on it, it's just the circle with the line, and it looks fine, but it's not. That one's tougher to see. So that you're always going to want this kind of A. Okay.
George, while you're there, could you show me how you would mark a message as junk?
Sure. So with this message here, I can basically just go right here, mark selected message as junk.
Oh, so it's a little down, thumbs down.
The icon varies on the version of mail that you're using.
All right.
But if you put the arrow on it and don't do anything, the tooltip will come up and tell you what this button does. For some reason, they have chosen an icon that looks very similar to this on the newer versions of some mail programs, and it's like the sides are kind of angled, I don't know why it makes no sense, because it's like, what is that icon supposed to be?
Well,
But
it
you
also
can
has
go-
an
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it also has an X in the box, so
Yeah.
it looks like the archive mailbox, although like you said, it's the
Yeah.
sides are slanted a little more, but it does have an X in the middle of the box, so that it indicates that it's you don't want it.
All right.
You can also go to the message menu and his mark as junk mail, and that's the keyboard shortcut, Command Shift J. So if you're a big keyboard shortcut person, just choose a message and hit that. Okay.
And
You
Dave,
also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dave, what he just showed under the message menu on the newer operating systems, if you click on the message menu, it's not going to have mark as and then a sub menu. You're simply going to click on message and then choose move to junk. So it's an option listed right under the message. When halfway down, it'll say move to junk.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, if you're on this list of messages here, if you hold the control key down or right click, if you have a single button mouse, control click is the same as a right click. But if you do that, you'll get the contextual menu, and this also has the mark as junk option.
To make your life a little bit easier, you can also go to the settings for toolbar and ask for not only the icon to show, but also the text of the icon, which will put the name of the icon underneath it. And it should tell you that down thumb is a junk marker. All my toolbars are set for icon and text so that I can see what each icon is supposed to represent.
Yeah. Customize toolbar,
R.
and then
Yeah, I tried to
icon text.
customize the toolbar and I don't see that little thumbs down icon.
Well, like I
anywhere.
said, you probably a newer version of the operating system. It has that newer one that looks like a box with slanted sides.
Okay, yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, that's one I have.
Yeah, so if you do the icon of text, you get this instead. So you can see you've got right underneath, right there, it says junk.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I have a question. I have an iPad that's I think it's a 7, a regular iPad 7, and it was plugged in, and it was evening time, so the white noise was running, and all of a sudden it just died. Screen doesn't work. I've tried. It was plugged in at the time. I've tried plugging it in. I've tried a hard reset, etc., and it's still just a black screen. Is there is it something I should go to like an Apple store and have them? I mean, if it's a screen that I need to replace, I don't mind trying to replace it myself. However, I just don't know where to start. I'm assuming it's not battery because it was right in the middle of being charged, and there wouldn't have been an issue with battery life in that instance.
Yeah,
So
but it could also be the logic board itself.
okay.
So,
So
I would
taking
say,
it,
I would say you're taking it, let them diagnose it.
and then if it's something other than something I could easily replace, then make a decision of whether it's worth, okay. I just, where it's dead, I can't erase it. I can't, well, actually, I guess I can erase it by going to the iCloud account, correct? And erasing it that way.
Well, basically all that does is if the device is ever brought back online,
It will erase it then.
will then erase it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Also,
I
go ahead. What was
Kevin, I had that problem. I took it to Charlotte Street Computers and they said, you've lost your video chip. Then I said, okay, so let's replace the video chip. And they said, it isn't made anymore. We would have to get a used chip. And at that point, I bought a new MacBook Air.
Yeah, and I've already replaced the iPad. That's not the issue, but the issue that it's got information on there or signed into my account is more my concern. So bringing it back to life to make sure that I can delete everything would be kind of important to me.
You got
Kevin, there's a startup option on the Mac where you can reset the electrical values or the electronics of all the settings of all the ports on the device you're using. I don't remember what it's called. George, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
It was a system setting reset as opposed to just a reset of the memory system and the CPU. This actually went out and did something on the I/O bus that just basically reset all the devices. And I'm wondering if maybe, since it was died during power applying or being charged, maybe that's something to do with the electronics of the powering circuit.
So not familiar with that one, so that would be an interesting one to find out on. But Kevin on and Bill, yours, if there's a video chip, that means it was still booting up, you just couldn't see anything. And that's
right.
If you logged into the iCloud, the Find My Phone function, tell it to erase the pad, that should be connected to the internet once it turns on, so it should see it and be able to erase it.
Okay. Well, anyway, I simply had him, Charlotte Street do it.
Yeah. And then Kevin, there's always the old school sledgehammer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's salvageable and not a big expense, it'd be nice to have a spare one around. But so yeah, I'll bring it to an Apple store or to Charlotte Street and see if they can diagnose it. So.
And there is something visceral about the sledgehammer approach.
Yeah.
Cheap
Talk
therapy.
about PTSD. Wow.
Now, a little side note, we talked about looking at the email addresses on the computer. On the iOS devices, if you have an email, if you tap on the name of whoever sent it to you, it will turn blue. If you tap on it again, it will show you the email address.
Mm-hmm.
So you can view the email address. Same for websites. If you get a link, what you're seeing again is a label. Sometimes you'll even say it says, click here to reset your password. Well, where's it taking me? Okay. You can actually, if you put the cursor on the computer, it will bring up the website. And what you want to look for is you may have this big, long string of text. Okay. Within that string of text, look for the .com, .biz, .edu, whatever the website would have. And look at the domain. As long as the domain is who you expect it to be from, you're good. Because everything before that is basically a section of the server. And after that is the location of the file in question. So you can get, apple.com/ knowledge base / March / 2012 / until you get to where that file actually is. So it can be a big, long string, but just look for the domain name in there. And that's what you always want to make sure of. Biggest thing is a link sent you in an email. If you didn't request a password reset or something along that line, don't click the link. If you get a message and you're pretty sure it is coming from Apple or Bank of America or whoever, it still is probably better for you to go to the web manually. Type in apple.com or bankofamerica.com or go to a bookmark that you created. That ensures that you're going where you think you're going. Because if that is a fake link, it will look like the site it's supposed to be going to. And as soon as you log into it, you've given them your login information for the real site.
But so the whole idea with password managers, and I'm assuming that the keychain does the same thing. If I click a link in an email that brings me to a bogus website, let's say I think I'm going to apple.com, but instead it brings me to, hacker.com. Okay. If I use my keychain to automatically fill in, it won't have an option for a password for that particular website because it doesn't match apple.com. So that's another warning that says, hey, yeah, don't put anything here because you know that you have a password that's been saved in your keychain for this particular website. And if it's not showing it as an option, that means you're not where you think you are.
Yeah.
Good
So
point.
And that's another advantage of the password management, the keychain, the one password, LastPass, those type of things, is that they not only save your passwords and your login names, they save the location where those are used.
Right. And maybe it would be a good idea just to do a short tutorial. We can do it online or whatever, just to show people a domain name, what the subdirectories are, what the domain name is, and what the file names are from that point on, and just kind of show people the structure so that they can be a little more familiar with recognizing what's a valid domain and what isn't. So maybe that would be something we can do.
And if you have any doubt whatsoever, contact David, Kevin, me, somebody in the group, and ask, hey, do you think this is okay? Because I would much rather have somebody call me and before they did it than after, because after it's too late, and then you spend
It's a lot of work.
time and money and frustration having to deal with it. And I had several people that have gotten scammed out of money. I've had people that one person, they got into their bank account and they started using it. They caught it early, so they didn't lose much, but they lost a couple $100. I've seen people get dinged for a lot worse. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Hey, I got one more question about this Apple Watch. Can I use it, Apple Pay, like go into Ingles and ding it against?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
now do I have to hold it up to my face for it to recognize me?
No.
Or
No.
Yeah, with the watch, once you put the watch on, okay, and you give it that first authentication, until you take the watch off, it's authenticated.
It knows it's on your wrist. As soon as you remove it, it locks, and then it won't come back on again until you enter your passcode.
That's why.
So, but when it's
good.
What they're
when it's
saying,
on your wrist, then you simply go to the store and double press the side button on the watch and hold it up to the terminal. And as soon as you hold it up to the terminal, it'll go ahead and make the transaction, and that's all you have to do. So yeah, when I go to the store now, I keep my rewards card on my watch, so I never have to go into my phone. I just bring up my rewards card, they scan my watch, and then I go over to the terminal, double press, and do my transaction, and my phone stays in my pocket the entire time.
that's what I want. I didn't even know
That's a joy.
the rewards card would do that. Okay.
Yeah,
Sold
there's
me.
and what they need to tell you is the newer watches require a password when you put it on, and that's what opens it up for you. And to say, anytime that watch comes off your wrist, in order to work it again, they want a password. That was not so with the older watches, but the newer ones will not work until you put that password in there. It'll give you a clock. That's it.
And
Tell me
and
this. Where
that's
do I
also
go buy
important.
one?
That's also important if you're working on your watch and you don't have it on your wrist, you're going to be typing in that passcode a lot.
That's right.
Would
where do
that
I
be
go
like
buy
the
one of
same
these watches?
passcode as your phone?
What's that?
Is that likely to be the same passcode as your phone?
You can set it up as the same, or you can use a different passcode.
Yeah, you'll define that during the setup of the watch.
My phone has a 6-digit passcode. My watch has a 4-digit. So they're two different passcodes.
Yeah, you can have it the same. My watch has a 6-digit passcode. I set it up as a long passcode as opposed to the shorter one, and I just use the same passcode for my phone and my watch. Yeah, so I don't have to remember a second one. So
good idea.
Yeah. So that's,
Okay, back
and
to my question.
Ken, you can go to either Amazon.com, you can go to Apple.com and buy you're going to have more options when you go to Apple.com, because you'll be able to choose the watch, the material for the watch, as well as the band that you want. And typically when you go to Amazon, you get whatever band that they provide. You get less options. So, and the new watches, I would hold off, because the new watch will be announced on Tuesday, the the Series 9, and just to see, is it worth getting a Series 9 or saving a few bucks and getting a Series 8? So
And the important thing is the Series 8 will be cheaper after the announcement.
right.
No.
And the Series 9 will the Series 9, it's rumored to have a bigger bump in the chip in it. So it should be, performance wise, it should be a bit better. But probably a lot of the other features will be similar in terms of the size of it, the look of it will be the same as the 8. So it'll just be a bump in the processor on the watch. So
Ken, where are you right now?
Where am I? I'm actually here in Brevard today.
Are you going to be anywhere near Greenville in the near future?
I can be. Should I go to the Apple store?
That's going to be your best experience, because not only do we have the best selection, but you'll actually be able to see them, look at them, and ask questions and talk to people. If you're anywhere near an Apple store, I always recommend that route, because even if you buy it elsewhere, you can figure out which one you want and get more information, more help. And they're not high pressure because they're not commission based. They're not going to push you to buy anything. I like that whole atmosphere.
and you'll definitely want to go with the 45 millimeter if you're going with the just regular Series 9, not the Ultra. You'll want to go with the 45 millimeter, the larger watch face, as opposed to the smaller one. My wife has very small wrists, so she has the smaller watch face, but the difference in the size of the numbers, I mean, it's noticeable. So, if it wasn't so clunky on her, it would have been probably nicer visually to be able to use the larger watch face for her.
George, since we're talking about passcodes, something happened to my watch. It was either a surge during one time I was upgrading the operating system on the watch, but the passcode that is in the watch now is not my original passcode. I don't know what that is. Is there a way to reset the passcode, or do I have to go back to bare metal and start over?
You're probably going to have to go to factory reset, and then just restore, and then you should be able to restore it from your backup.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Cool.
Talking about the watches, they're coming out with new bands, I believe. Maybe that'll be shown. But Apple is getting out of the leather business. You can no longer get an Apple leather case or an Apple leather band. And they were selling their Hermes's $850 band to their employees for $85, which is probably what it's worth if you're lucky. Just shows you this ridiculous markup for prestige.
Well, I have the watch 8, and it came with a single band. In other words, it doesn't have a connector. It's just one band.
It's called a loop. Yeah.
Take it off, and it hasn't stretched out in a year.
That's great.
Yeah, as long as it's a good fit, because I know somebody whose wrist is, we got the smallest band.
It's whatever the synthetic is that they have, but it's just one band. It doesn't have a connecting thing on it.
Yeah, so David, the issue with the one, it's called the loop band. The loop, you choose the size based on, they can give you a little template to measure your watch and then, determine the size for the loop. But I've had a client whose wrist was too small, and now it's too loose for her. So she has to put something on the band to take up some space in order to get it to work. So you got a little more limitation than if you look at mine's the Nike band. Let's see, you can see all the holes. So I can just pick the hole, and drop it in. If I need to make it tighter, I can just, go one hole more, just like a belt would be, except the holes are closer together. So it's easy to make an adjustment on the and fairly easy to put on with one hand.
And the thing that you don't think about with that band is there's a lot of holes that have nothing to do with the sizing, but it offers a lot of
Air.
airflow. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions?
Different realm, George.
What's that?
When I do a screenshot and get the little icon in the corner, how can I print from that, please?
Well, if you tap the icon in the corner, it's going to open it up and allow you to edit, share, send, whatever you want to do with it. And one of the options you should have in the share send is to print. Are we talking on the computer or on the
Computer.
iOS? Okay. Basically, the screenshot is being saved as a JPEG image by default onto the desktop. It's going to be called screenshot with the time and date, and then it's just a file. So you can just take that file, double click it, and choose print. But from the little thumbnail, you should be able to tap the thumbnail before it disappears, and it should open it up, and you should be able to print it from there as well.
Okay. Double tap it or once?
Well, on the computer, just click on it. On the iOS devices, you'll tap on it just once.
Okay, it's gotten away from me before I've had chance to really realize what
It should be on the desktop. That's a default location for those, unless you've changed it in the utility, in the screenshot utility. But the default it will be on the desktop. If you can't find it, just look for the word screenshot, and you'll see the most recent one should be at the top of the list. Because they always call it screenshot, and then the date and the time.
Right.
And then just double click it and open it and print it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that little thumbnail is nice because if you catch it before it disappears, you can go in there, you can crop it, you can highlight, do the markup and do things on it, send it off in an email or text message to somebody, and then just immediately delete it because you've gotten what you needed from it, and just delete it so you don't end up with 14 screenshots on the desktop that you forget to delete. And the same with iOS devices. That little thumbnail will appear in the corner. If you tap on it, you can basically have all those options. And then when you're done, it gives you the option to delete it, save it to files, or copy and delete it. The copy and delete is wonderful because I'll just say copy and delete. It puts it in the clipboard, then I paste it where I need it, and I'm done. They've really beefed up the screenshot. Screenshot's always been one of my favorite things, and Marguerite can attest to that. And now what they've done is they've streamlined.
Times a day, I use every single day that I use the copy and paste without it ever appearing on the desktop constantly. And I think of you, George.
Yeah, I love that because I do a lot of when I do the presentations. I do take screenshots from different things, and if you have to, do all the screenshots, use all the screenshots, and then delete all the screenshots, it's pain. So I just basically screenshot, paste, screenshot, paste, screenshot, paste, screenshot, paste, and we're good. So yeah, what they've done with the iOS devices and the Mac is they've made screenshots more robust, easier to see what's going on and to take advantage of. On the computer, if you're not familiar with the keyboard shortcuts, Command Shift 3 and Command Shift 4 used to be what you'd use to take screenshots. Well, now they have Command Shift 5. It brings up a menu with all the options. That is nice.
What is it, George? Command
Shift 5.
Okay.
And that brings up at the bottom, you see a little thing that you can choose full screen, heart of the screen, whether you want to save it to the clipboard, to the desktop, to a program. Then you also have the screen recording functions, which says, okay, I want to record the screen, either the full screen or portion of the screen. And so that it gives you all those options in that menu rather than having to know the keyboard machinations to get them. Okay.
Sounds good. I use screenshots a lot.
Yeah. And then on the phones, the power button and the volume up button at the same time will bring up the screenshot. On the newer phones, the power button and the home button on the older phones. And then when the screenshot comes in the thumbnail, you can just tap it. If you don't do anything, it will be in your photo library.
Yeah. George, on the phones, you could use Siri.
Yes.
Siri, take a screenshot. You can't
Actually, I
do
think
that.
you can do that on the computer now too.
Oh, then they changed it because I tried it and I gave up, and
Okay. I haven't tried it, but I actually, now
I'm
that I
using
said
my
that-
computer less and less. I'm just doing iPads all the time now.
Thanks, Matt. I got screenshots now of all my devices when you said.
Oh,
Now, I have noticed that when Siri first came out and they introduced the Hey
Oh,
Siri,
boy.
anybody could say Hey Siri and my phone would respond. Well, then they put in those like 5 or 6 steps set up so that only my voice would be recognized. But I've noticed lately that again it's gotten back to if somebody else says Hey Siri, my device will also respond.
Yeah.
So-
And my
What's nice with the home, I've started to automate parts of the home, and I have a couple of HomePod minis in different parts of the house. And if Sierra gives a command, it'll say, I can't do that, Sierra, or whatever. But it recognizes her voice and differentiates her from me. So it knows that if she's asking for something, if she tells the speaker to do something, it does it on her devices, not on my devices, which is kind of nice.
What I want to know is when you say Hey Sierra, does Siri come up?
I have a pet name for Sierra, so I don't often do that, so I don't run into the problem.
Because when the Hey Siri
cute.
first came out, I was watching the show Scandal. One of the characters' name is Cyrus, and one of the people came in and said, "Hey Cyrus," and all my devices went, "What? What?"
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't know what's going to happen when they take off the hey part,
Take the
I
hay
know.
off.
because there's
I'm hoping that they'll
that's-
still have an option to leave it on if you want it on.
Hmm.
Because I like the Hey Siri, because otherwise if I'm talking to somebody about Siri, I don't want Siri to come up every time I say the word.
Is that happening soon? Are they going to drop the hay part?
It's 17, right?
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they'll leave an option in there, like a little checkbox or a little choice of Siri or Hey Siri. What I want is to be able to specify something other than Siri, because right now I have it turned off, the Hey Siri function on my tablet and my computer, because I use it mostly on my phone. And when I say Hey Siri, it's usually my phone that I'm talking to. So I want to be able to say hey iPhone, or hey iPad, or hey computer, or what, something like that, so I can specify which device I want to do this to.
Exactly.
I'd like to have that for intercom in the house between the iPad minis.
So if you get each a custom name. I'm sorry, what was that?
Take it away. My computer, my television's talking to Siri enough already. I need the hay.
In fact, I wanted to say, hey, I want to talk to you, Siri.
I've been usually before we go in to watch TV, while I'm kind of getting Sierra all set up for TV time, I'll usually ask Siri to tell us a joke, and I tell you, they got to do something, because the jokes are horrible. There's rarely any that are funny, and they really need to update that. So I hope that this new all this money that they're spending lately on having Siri be more conversational, which I hear is, I think, going to be probably not till like 2025 or something like that. That I hope it's a little better for some of those things.
Well, see, the problem is they put all the comedy writers in the autocorrect section.
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, there's certainly no sense of humor there.
Well, autocorrect has
Autocorrect is ridiculous.
They have a mean sense of humor in that one, because they'll substitute some really inappropriate things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got one yesterday. I sent my somebody needed my schedule, so I offered them some days that I was available next week, and the reply that I got was 3 words: homicide, hunter, YouTube. And it's like, where
So similar.
I can't even imagine how they would have even got that on autocorrect. I have no idea where that came from.
Well, I think, David, didn't you send me one? It looked like you had suffered a stroke, because it was like
No, I find it more helpful to, to tap the possibilities than to dictate anymore. So,
Yeah, what's funny is that you have to be careful if you do anything where you use the word duck.
yeah, that's right.
I said, duck before you get in the car, and it's like, why do we want to have sex before we get in the car?
That shows you how prevalent that word has become. That they had.
Yeah,
to
but the problem is half the time when I went to say that word, it does duck instead.
Yeah. That's how prevalent.
I actually put in a text replacement
Right.
for the word duck, because I use the other one much more often. So I guess I can't have duck à l'orange anytime soon.
I wondered about the naming of the search engine, DuckDuckGo. You know,
Yeah,
if there's something hidden there.
I'm using that exclusively. I downloaded.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too.
And I moved the Google icon way off screen 17 so that I don't use it by mistake. Force a habit.
Just delete it from the home screen page.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm too insecure. Oh no! Well, just off the
yeah. It'll be in the app library.
I still depend on Maps. I'm telling you, over Apple Maps. I certainly use the Google Maps more.
I use Apple Maps and love it, and so especially the changes they've made to it. The problem has always been with Apple, when they release something too soon, it gets a bad reputation, and it's very hard to shake that. When the first version of Maps was awful, and everybody to this day says, "Oh, Maps is awful." No, Maps is not awful. Maps is very good. Whether it's better than Google is more subjective than anything else. But if you remember when the Newton first came out, the handwriting was atrocious. But when the Newton, like I had many versions of Newton, and it got to the point where it was phenomenal at doing my handwriting, which says a lot because my handwriting sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do that. So most of the time, Apple usually waits to release something until it's ready. But sometimes they have they put an artificial timetable on, and they did with the Maps. They said, okay, at this version of operating system, we're going to replace Google Maps with our own. Well, they should have probably waited a little longer, and they put it out there too soon, and that bit them in the butt. Plus the fact that their provider of data wasn't the best choice, and they had some issues. They switched the map data company, and that improved their directions immensely as well. So, but yeah, one of the things I really love, if you haven't used the newer versions of Maps, is the add stop feature. You can actually create a multiple stop direction, or if you're going somewhere, you can add a stop. And what's really cool is it will show you, like if you say, okay, I want to stop at a McDonald's, it will show you a list of McDonald's, and it'll show you how much it adds to the current trip, how much time. So you can see which one is closest to the route you're taking. May not necessarily be the one that's closest to where you are, but it's one that's going to give you the least amount of lost time.
And the thing I like about Apple Maps and owning an Apple Watch is that when I set it up on my phone and I get in the car and I start driving, all the directions go over to my watch, and it just gives me a haptic feedback when it's time, before it's time for me to make a turn, and all the directions are right coming up on the screen of the watch. So I don't have to look at the phone as much as listen to my watch, and it really works out nicely.
And if I remember correctly, on the watch, the haptic feedback, if you're going to be turning left, the haptic feedback is on the left side. If you turn right, it's on the right side.
I don't know if I haven't differentiated. I don't use it that much because I know mostly where I'm going, and I don't do a lot of new routes. But when I have used it, I meant to pay attention to see, is the haptic feedback for a left turn different than a right turn? And I'm not sure about that, but it certainly could be, and it could be like 3 if it's one direction and 2 if it's another, or something like that as well. So I'll have to see what that is.
On my watch, I have mine set up the same way, Kevin. I get a different tone. In other words, it's an ascending tone for a right turn, and a descending tone
Descending
for a
for a
left turn.
left. That's
Yep.
interesting. I'll have to pay attention. I'll use it when I go out today. I'll just set a map. I'll set the map for going to the store or whatever, and I'll pay attention.
I find I set the map even for places I know how to get there because of the traffic information. Because it has saved me so much time when I'm, I normally go this way and says it's telling me to turn right. It's like, why would I turn right? And I did this one time coming up 26 and said, they told me to get off the exit. I said, 25 isn't that much faster than 26. I want to stay here. And told me to get off the next exit, and I still didn't. They told me to get off the next exit. I still didn't. And within 10 yards after passing the exit, I saw a flood of brake lights in front of me.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Siri's over there going, I told you. So guys, always listen to the ladies.
You waited a long time to say that, didn't you, George?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but the voice for computers is most often female, and that's because men and women both respond better to the female voice. The original Star Trek computer voice was female. And if you think about anytime they have an evil computer, it's a male voice. Hal was,
we need that help, right?
Yeah. So, but basically, we are just it's wired to respond to a female voice better than a male voice. I don't know why.
Well, I changed mine to an Australian dude. I didn't want anybody nagging me, so.
Just laid back, says, man, you just got to turn, just got to turn.
I've got a quick question about directions. I use Waze, and particularly in the few times I've driven back and forth to New Hampshire, it takes you off of I-81 around traffic congestion. And that's happened to me twice, and I haven't noticed anybody else doing it. So the roads they put you on up in Virginia are untraveled roads, but in both cases, it's been about 10 or 15 miles. And then as I look back with Waze, I can see what the problem is because but anyway, because it picks up other people's information along the way, I find it very good at picking up congestion of that sort and putting you around it. And I have at least two really good examples of it.
Waze was the first one to do that with crowdsourcing, and I used it a lot. And then Google bought it and started putting ads in Waze, and I said nope. So I got rid of that. But Apple and Google both now also have that type of feature. Apple has a definite advantage in the fact that because it has so many users, they can see the traffic patterns much better because they have users that are actually in the
Okay, and what's the Apple one cost named? Is it just Maps?
Just Maps, yeah. And
Okay.
I found it does that as well if there's an accident. And then you also have the ability, in addition to automatically pulling in information by seeing how traffic is slowing down and speeding up, it also has the option for you to report things like an accident or such. And if there was a reported crash, as you approach it, it'll say, is that still there? And you can say, yes, it is.
Yeah, well, Waze has that too.
Right,
it says,
right. Waze introduced that.
It also has police traps.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, they all kind of saw that and said, "Oh, that's a good idea," and they all added it. And I agree, it's a great feature, but it's no longer limited just to Waze. But that was why I used Waze for the longest time.
Okay.
I've got a friend that has a Tesla, and I think it does the same thing.
Yeah. What was really scary was when after Google bought Waze, honest to God, I'm driving along, and I was putting up with the ads. It was like Burger King ads and things. I put up with that, but it brought up a video on my Waze while I'm driving. I'm like, no, not gonna happen. Not only is that eating up my data, but it's like a video while I'm driving. Really? You think that's a good idea? Huh? So
I don't get any ads at all. Maybe
I think they
anyway.
I think they got a lot of pushback on that, so they probably backed off on it.
Okay.
George, I got a message the other day that a strange AirTag was monitoring my location. He gives a time and a place where it thought I was. Now I have several AirTags and the batteries are all up to date, but I wonder where this came from. And I was sitting at home, and maybe there's a lot of iPhone users here in the hood. So maybe that's what it was doing. Somebody walking by on the road may have alerted my AirTags that a stranger was around. I don't understand how that trigger works and how they isolate things. Do you have any info?
Well, as far as I know, it's designed that I guess if an AirTag is within your range for a certain period of time, it's considering the fact that it could be tracking you.
Oh, okay.
So that may be that maybe there was somebody sitting,
I didn't
sat
know it
down,
was doing that. Okay.
sat down somewhere for long enough time that it triggered and said, "Hey, there might be somebody tracking you."
Okay.
They put that in there because of the stalking incidents where people would stick a AirTag in some woman's bag so they
Yep.
could track her. So, yeah.
I like using the AirTags, by the way. I've got one on my bike. I got one on my keys, and it's just another layer of comfort.
Yeah, and you're seeing Apple has opened up the protocol, so you see a lot of devices will have that built into the device.
Yep.
Like a lot of the higher end bicycles will have the AirTag function built into it. You just have to register it for your phone, and then it tracks that bike.
Yep.
So without having an actual AirTag, you mean?
Right. It's built into the device.
Nice.
Just like
Yeah,
they've
just-
done with the home protocol. Put it
Yeah.
into the light bulbs and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, your phone and your iPad and your computer and watch all have that capability built into them as well.
Can I go back to the maps issue again? And this is a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I have all my devices are Apple, iPads, iPhone, the whole schmear. So the icon for maps on my phone, it actually is the Apple map program. It's not Google. And the reason I ask is because when I'm traveling with someone who has some other kind of phone, we sometimes get conflicting information. And she says, well, I'm using Google Maps. And I'm thinking, well, I think mine's Apple, but I'm not sure, but it's on my phone. So it is an Apple map.
Yeah, unless you chose to use a different one than you using Apple Maps. And keep in mind, within Maps, I will go the same place multiple times, and it will give me different directions. A lot of times, depending on traffic information that it has, and the difference in time is maybe 1 minute. So it's probably like 30 seconds difference, but it just happens when it went to check, this one was faster. Doesn't know how much faster, just this was faster. So that's the one it's going to give me. Or they may have something set up that says, I don't care about faster. I want no highway or no toll. So those things all can come into play. If you choose avoid highways, it's going to take you a different route. You'll still get there, but you'll take all side roads.
Well, I discovered CarPlay recently. And I didn't even realize that there was such a thing, but I have an Apple Watch, and I had been sending things to my watch, but then I discovered CarPlay, and it sends it from my phone directly to the screen in my car, and it's so much easier to see it right there in front of me than have to listen to the watch.
Anyway, regretfully, I've only dealt with CarPlay on rental cars, so it was not something I get to do permanently, but it is very nice.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. And what's funny is if you ever take a screenshot when you're connected to CarPlay, you'll get whatever's on your phone, but you also whatever's on the CarPlay screen.
I'll have to try that.
So you have to,
so every
time I take screenshots, I'm like, oh, I got to delete that one, just send this.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Matt and David, can you tell me why you're preferring DuckDuck to Google for your search engines?
It doesn't save your data and sell it.
And no ads.
And it's completely unrestricted. I mean, there are no blocks built into it. You can set up screening, blocking things, but if you want a complete open search, that's what DuckDuckGo does.
There's no ads, there's no tracking, no data tracking, no data collection.
Yeah, it's
You
it
can
is.
you can use they have a browser if you'd prefer to use their browser, but you can also change in your Safari browser
Right.
on your iOS devices or your iPad or your computer. You can go into the preferences or settings and change your search engine from Google to
Right.
DuckDuckGo. And I've done that across all my devices. So no
I have
matter
to.
where I am, whenever I do a search, I'm searching in DuckDuckGo and not on Google. So
I think that my iMac came with it as the default.
DuckDuckGo, that's nice.
Default search. Yeah, Apple's done that for a while, unless it was the iPad. But anyway, no, I downloaded the app. I thought it was easier for me to just, because I'm used to clicking that Google icon.
Google, in my opinion, has ruined search engines because I can remember when I would do a search, it would send out to 10 different search engines, come back with a compiled list, and I'd get the one that hit more engine results was at the top, and as you went down the list. Now I go to page 2 if I do a Google search, because the first page is just whoever manipulated the system to get on the on the list. If I wanted to, I could basically pay somebody to put in the appropriate keywords and phrases so that I could be at the top of a list on orthodontists.
Right.
Because I want my business to be marketed to the people who are looking for orthodontists. Has nothing to do with orthodontia. I shouldn't be on that page, but I could make that happen if I wanted to. That's the game that the business that Google has created out of search engines, and it really, in my mind, has messed up search engines.
Mm.
Does DuckDuckGo make money? If it doesn't
They
commercials and the other
they
side.
make money, but you just don't see it because they're doing. That's a question that when you know, people ask about it, and I'm not sure how it works. They say, "Well, we make money. Oh, we do sell to advertisers, but we're not selling your data to advertisers."
They're selling aggregate information, trends.
Like trends, aggregates of stuff.
Yeah. If you go to their website, they have a section that describes how their business model works. So you can kind of feel comfortable that, yeah, they are doing what they say they are doing.
Let me go back to one comment about CarPlay. I have CarPlay on my new car. When it works, it's great. For example, if I have my iPhone and I do a search for, we'll say, Apple Store in Greenville, when I get in the car, it'll pop up on my screen. Do you want to go to the Apple Store in Greenville? It apparently looks on my phone, the last place I put on there, and asks me if that's where I want to go, which is really slick. So I don't even have to set it up, but it only works about 80% of the time.
Well,
the other 20% of the time, it doesn't hook up, or in my case, it puts it up there in Arabic. It's wow.
Well, keep in mind, CarPlay is dumb. It has no brain. All that is a display that basically has been set up so that the iPhone can use it as a display. So all that information is coming directly from the iPhone. Without an iPhone, CarPlay can't do anything. So if you have an issue, those issues aren't in CarPlay, it's in the phone. So what I would do is check your CarPlay settings, make sure that things are set properly. And what I would actually go in there and do is make a change and then change it back to where it's supposed to be. Because it sounds like your preference file might be corrupt. And if you make a change, it overwrites the preference file with new preferences. And then you set it back to what it was, it overwrites it again. So you get a new preference file.
Thank you.
But yeah, because I've used CarPlay in several cars. I've never had anything like that happen. It's always been really smooth. Also, make sure that the connection is good. Oh, this is very important. The cable you use, if it's not an Apple branded cable, make sure it's from one of the companies that is certified. Most cables, even if they say data, are not. They just charge. And if you try to use data on it, it kind of works. Okay, I had trouble with it on my computer. I was trying to synchronize my data. Okay, and it wasn't working. And I tried to do an update and it failed like 3 times. And I looked at it, wait a minute. I wonder, this is not an Apple cord. I unplugged it, got this old raggedy, about to fall apart Apple cord, plugged it in, and boom, it worked first time.
Hmm.
So Anchor is a good one if you don't have the Apple branded ones. I don't know that any others that I can honestly say, yes, those are good, but I've dealt with Anchor ones and they worked. But I did have that problem in one of the CarPlay cars. I put in a third-party cord and it didn't come up.
Yeah.
Put in the Apple cord, came right up.
George, with the new phones, they're now providing braided charging cables, no longer
Yeah.
those skinny little white pieces of junk.
Yeah, and Anchor did that too. The braided ones, those are really good.
Yeah.
But but even that old raggedy one that I had, that's probably
Yeah.
like 5, 6 years, 7 years old, it worked beautifully compared
I
to
got
the.
this. I got this drawer full of snakes, white, all kinds of white cords. Is there any way that I can look at a USB-C cable and determine if it's data only or power only or data?
Not really by look, but if you know who it's from, check to make sure that they are, what's it called, MiFi certified, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's it.
Yeah.
But I think I came across a device, David, on Amazon, and I don't remember what the name of it was, but it sounded like it would check. It checked not only like whether it was a cord that was compatible or not, but it also checked the speed of the cord and the connector and things like that. But I can't remember what that device was called. It wasn't very expensive. It was something available on Amazon. But you might just try a search on Amazon and see if you can
I
find
will.
something that will, identify, valid Apple cords or Apple certified cords.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Basically,
Kevin.
if it was really, really cheap, it's just going to charge.
The cord, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never buy the cheapest ones. I buy the braided ones or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've just been through 2 reloads of my iPad, and one time it worked well, the next time it didn't. And the only variable is the cable.
Yeah, and that's I've run into that, and it definitely was the cable that was my problem. So yeah, what I would do is once you know one's good, maybe put a mark on it somehow so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, or throw the others away.
Well, they're fine for charging.
Well, that's
So
true.
put it behind the couch and just leave it there. So when you sit on the couch, just plug it in. And you're good.
Good
to go.
point. Yeah, I do that. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Don't waste the data ones on that. Yeah.
Y'all
Right.
are bringing up a good point, because I don't use a cable. I just set my phone there in the little slot, and it goes through the air. I don't know, it's voodoo or something.
Well, there are certain things though that you do need to plug in. If you're doing an update from the computer, you need to be plugged in to the USB. It won't do that over the Wi-Fi. And that's actually what I was doing. That it failed 3 times with the wrong cord. Everything else, I think, including our backups, can be done over the Wi-Fi. But the updates still require you either do it on the phone itself, or you have to have the USB cord to the computer.
My iPhone will back up without being plugged in.
Right. No,
I mean, will update without being plugged in
from the
I'm
computer.
talking about CarPlay. My phone talking to
Oh,
CarPlay,
yeah.
I'd rather do it, through the air.
Oh yeah.
Not all those. That's a newer one, so not all cars will have that option.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
if it does, then yeah. But at this point, I have not run into a car that had that, so I think it's probably only the last couple of years models that would have the wireless version.
Yeah,
And then even then,
that's
that's probably more expensive for them to implement, so they're probably not going to do it unless they do it on the higher end models.
I have a low end model, but anyhow, that may be the problem. Is I just need to plug it in automatically without thinking. And
yeah, it may be. And the thing is I've seen that sometimes where they, like the Bluetooth chip that some of the cars use, have to be the old cheap chips because they suck.
Yeah.
And then what I really wish Apple would do is give you the option of using the phone's microphone instead of the car's microphone, because I have yet to find a car microphone that I like.
Yeah.
It's always low quality. People have, you sound like you're in a wind tunnel. Well, I kind of am in a wind tunnel.
George, I forgot to mention that with the 15s, you know, they're going with USB-C now. But depending on which model, there's been a lot of rumors that the standard models are going to have a very slow USB-C connection as opposed to the higher end models, which are going to be very fast.
Right, but again, the low end USB-C is still as fast as the older USBs. So, but yeah, that's not uncommon. They did that with the phone, with the cameras as well. Yeah, it's how they save. You know, they're looking to keep the price down, and so they'll basically do the things that are going to be least noticeable in the day-to-day stuff.
What I've been doing is I've been buying adapters. You know, because I have a mix of lightning cable devices and USB-C and other things too. And I get these little dongles, whatever you want to call them, they're very small. And let's see.
Yeah, those are nice to have because it's quick and easy.
One of them. You know, this is for getting a good old USB type A or B going to your whatever's in the IMAX, whatever they're calling.
They even have really small ones that just fit on the end.
Yeah, those are on my other iPads. Yeah. I use something called MIDI, and the MIDI uses the old USB-C on one, and I just got a couple of those, a couple of they're only this big, 2 for $10. Yeah. Certified, whatever you said they had to be, they are, and stuff like that, because people are thinking they have to run out and buy all new cables. They really don't.
And let me step back a little bit and talk about the certification. That is important for a variety of reasons, not just the day that we're talking about. If you remember a few years ago, there was somebody that died because their phone caught on fire, their iPhone.
I do remember stuff like
and the reason that happened was that the cord that they had used was not UL certified. That's actually not even Apple certification. It's electrical sample. And because it wasn't UL certified, it couldn't. Apple has technology that basically will stop it from overcharging, and that without the UL certification, that chip wasn't listening, and it kept charging, and it basically overcharged the phone, and that's what happened. So be aware that you know, cheap cords, make sure you look for those certifications. The very bare minimum UL certification is not an optional thing. That all of them are supposed to have it, but make sure that it does, because some of the cheap Chinese cords apparently did not. All right. Any more questions?
I'd like to ask a question of Dave. Dave, are you on our mailing list?
I don't think I am.
Would you like to be?
Sure.
Okay. If you want to stay on when this meeting ends, I'll take your email information and add you to the mailing list for our agenda every month.
Okay. Thanks.
So Dave, did you get something from the meeting? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's interesting geek speak. It's
the elderly geeks.
I think we all learn a little bit.
So would we be geeksters then?
Oh God.
David Day, I put in the chat a link to Apple's webpage that talks about identifying counterfeit or uncertified Lightning connector accessories. So you can click that link. Yeah.
Also, just a little tip. If you ever have a situation where you plug your cord in and it's not charging or it's not working, one of the common things that happens, you'll unplug your cord, and what do? You drop it on the table, sometimes on the floor. It can get dirt and lint on the connector. When you put it in the phone and you take it out, the lint stays in the port, and that will basically provide a block to the connection. So if you're having a problem with that, take a plastic or wood, not metal, toothpick. Very gently just put it in there and just kind of run it from one side to the other of the connector and pull out. And 9 times out of 10, you'll find just a little bit of lint. That little bit of lint could be causing the problem. And I've found that to be a fix a lot of times if you're having trouble with it not charging or not connecting up right. Well, unless somebody has another question, I think we will call it a day.
Good meeting, George.
Very good. Learned an awful lot today.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Okie
Thank
doke.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Marguerite, I will not close the room. I'll leave the room going so you and Dave can talk.
Right. Please don't cut us off until I get his email.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. See you
Goodbye,
next
everyone.
month.
So long.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you next month.
The email address is daclar@icloud.com.
Was that Z as in zebra?
No, D as in David.
D as in David.
ACLAR.
Okay, David, Apple, Charlie, Larry, Apple, Robert
Right.
at iCloud.com.
Yep.
Very good. And what is your last name, Dave?
Clark.
Okay. I will add you to the list and you'll get a copy automatically next month, generally on Monday or Tuesday of the week that we have the meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
Great. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Jeanne.
Bye.
Bye. On the bottom right, leave meeting.
It's gone.
Swipe up.
I poked everything and nothing happened. Okay.
When
Now
I
got it.
when George and I leave, you'll be cut off. Okay, bye. Thank you, George.